Airports are full of rushing feet, ringing announcements, and people chasing their own destinations. But sometimes, amid the chaos, a single choice can change everything. Sophie was a young nurse, exhausted after a long night shift, clutching her small suitcase as she hurried to catch a flight to see her sick mother. Every second mattered, every step was urgent. But then she saw him. An elderly man, frail and confused, had dropped his cane and suitcase. Travelers brushed past, too busy to notice, too focused on their own schedules. Sophie hesitated for only a moment. She could run to her gate and make her flight, or she could stop, and help. Her heart made the choice for her. Kneeling beside him, steadying his trembling hands, adjusting his fallen bag, she gave up her own chance to leave. Little did she know, this small act of kindness was about to rewrite her destiny. The man she helped was no ordinary traveler, he was Henry Collins, the owner of the airline itself. What happened next would change Sophie's life forever, proving that when you choose compassion over convenience, life has a way of rewarding the purest hearts. Sophie stepped into the bustling airport terminal, her small gray suitcase squeaking softly against the polished tiles. At 28, she was a young nurse, her chestnut brown hair tied loosely in a messy bun, a few strands brushing her soft, light olive cheeks. Her pale blue scrub top peeked out from under a cream cardigan, paired with dark jeans and worn white sneakers, a modest, practical outfit for a woman whose life revolved around caring for others. Her eyes, warm and soft, carried the exhaustion of a long night shift, yet there was a quiet determination in their depth. Today, she wasn't just rushing through an airport, she was racing toward hope, toward her sick mother who had been waiting for weeks. The terminal was alive with chaos, families hugging, children darting between seats, business travelers dragging sleek luggage, and the constant murmur of announcements echoing through the high glass windows. Sophie moved with purpose, weaving through the crowd, her hand gripping the handle of her suitcase tightly. Every step carried the weight of her urgency, every glance toward the gate a silent plea that she would make it in time. Despite the bustle, Sophie felt a quiet tension building inside her, a mix of hope and fatigue pressing on her shoulders. Her heart raced as she imagined her mother's face, longing for comfort and care. This flight wasn't just a trip, it was a lifeline. And yet, as she moved forward, unaware of the challenge that fate was about to place in her path, Sophie had no idea that her journey would soon become a test not of speed, but of compassion. Sophie's steps faltered for just a moment, and that brief pause changed everything. As she weaved through the crowd toward her gate, her eyes caught sight of an elderly man struggling ahead. He was frail and small, his thin frame bent under the weight of age and weakness. Silver hair, thin and wispy, framed a deeply wrinkled face, and his round glasses slipped precariously down his nose. His hands trembled as he tried to steady his cane, while a small brown leather suitcase wobbled dangerously beside him. Passengers brushed past him, some glancing briefly before continuing their hurried pace, oblivious to his struggle. Sophie's heart clenched. Every instinct screamed at her to keep moving, to catch her flight, to be there for her mother. But something in the man's trembling posture and pleading eyes made her stop. Without a second thought, she knelt beside him, her hand steadying his shaking frame. Her chestnut brown hair fell loosely around her face, soft brown eyes filled with concern, and her light olive skin flushed with exertion and emotion. The cream cardigan over her pale blue scrub top shifted slightly as she leaned forward, her worn white sneakers brushing the floor, unnoticed in her focus on the man. "Don't worry, sir, I've got you," she whispered, her voice gentle yet firm. Step by careful step, she helped him retrieve his fallen bag, straightened his jacket, and guided him to a nearby bench. She could feel the weight of lost seconds pressing on her, her heartbeat quick with urgency and anxiety. She glanced toward her gate, the final call had already begun, but she didn't move. In that moment, Sophie realized something profound. Compassion often asks us to pause, to put others before ourselves, even when time is slipping away. She had made her choice, and though it cost her flight, it would soon become a defining moment in her life, one that would show her the extraordinary power of simple, selfless kindness. Sophie sat on the cold metal bench, her small gray suitcase resting at her feet, forgotten. The terminal around her buzzed with life, travelers hurried past, announcements echoed, and departure boards flashed new flights. But Sophie felt suspended in a quiet bubble, her chest tight, throat burning, and shoulders heavy with disappointment. She had chosen to help the elderly man, and in doing so, had sacrificed her chance to catch the flight that would take her to her mother. Her chestnut brown hair, tied loosely in a messy bun, fell slightly over her flushed cheeks. Her light olive skin reflected the warm sunlight streaming through the tall glass windows, and her soft brown eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Her cream cardigan was slightly wrinkled, and her pale blue scrub top bore the faint creases from the long day. Even her worn white sneakers seemed small and fragile beneath her tense posture, as if echoing the weight of the decision she had made. Across the terminal, the elderly man was safe, finally seated and attended to, yet Sophie's heart ached. She thought of her mother, waiting in pain and worry, of the precious hours she had lost. And yet, as she rested her hands on her suitcase, a quiet sense of fulfillment began to seep through the despair. She had acted from the heart. She had made the selfless choice, and in that, there was a strength no gate, no flight schedule, and no rushing crowd could diminish. Sophie's gaze lingered on the gate that was now closed, the bright letters mocking her missed opportunity. And yet, something deeper stirred within her, a knowledge that kindness, even when it costs us, is never wasted. Her sacrifice was not the end of her journey, but the first step towards something far greater, a life-changing encounter she could not yet imagine. In that moment, the bustling terminal faded around her, leaving only the quiet, luminous truth. Her heart had chosen compassion, and that choice would shape her destiny in ways she could never foresee. The terminal had quieted, and Sophie felt a strange stillness settle around her. She had helped the elderly man, sacrificed her flight, and yet the memory of his frail frame, his trembling hands, and the soft look in his eyes lingered. She hadn't expected anything in return, she had acted purely from compassion. And yet, as she sat catching her breath, a familiar presence approached. Henry Collins stood before her, his frail frame now exuding an unexpected dignity. At 78, his silver hair was neatly combed, his round spectacles catching the soft sunlight streaming through the tall glass windows. His beige jacket was perfectly tailored, white dress shirt crisp, and light gray trousers pressed. Even in his age, his posture radiated quiet authority and calm confidence. A gentle smile touched his lips as he regarded Sophie, warm yet commanding, a man of immense presence wrapped in humility. Sophie's chestnut brown hair, loosely tied in a messy bun, fell over her flushed cheeks. Her soft brown eyes widened, a mix of shock, disbelief, and awe washing over her. Her pale blue scrub top peeked out from beneath her cream cardigan, her worn white sneakers planted firmly on the polished floor. She gripped her small gray suitcase tightly, her knuckles pale, as her heart raced. "I am Henry Collins," he said, his voice calm yet powerful, carrying the weight of authority without arrogance. "I own this airline." The words hung in the air, a revelation that made Sophie's mind reel. The frail man she had helped, the one who had seemed so ordinary, was extraordinary. In that moment, the sacrifices she had made, the lost flight, the racing heart, the worry for her mother, transformed into destiny. Her kindness had not gone unnoticed, it had opened the door to a life she could never have imagined. Weeks later, Sophie found herself standing in the hospital corridor, the chaos of rushing nurses and passing doctors fading into the background as her heart raced with anticipation. She clutched a formal cream-colored letter embossed with the airline's gold seal, her small gray suitcase forgotten at her feet. At 28, Sophie was a young nurse, her chestnut brown hair tied loosely in a messy bun, a few strands brushing her flushed, light olive cheeks. Her pale blue scrub top peeked from beneath a slightly wrinkled cream cardigan, paired with dark jeans and scuffed white sneakers, worn from long days of care. Her soft brown eyes shimmered with disbelief and gratitude as she read the words, "Henry Collins Foundation Scholarship, established in your honor." Her shoulders, tense from weeks of worry and exhaustion, relaxed slightly as a wave of relief washed over her. The corridor around her continued its hum of activity, nurses pushing carts, doctors conversing in hushed tones, patients moving slowly with assistance, but Sophie's focus was entirely on the tangible recognition of her selfless act. She could feel the weight of every choice she had made, every second spent helping the elderly man at the airport, culminating in this moment of quiet triumph. In the background, Henry Collins stood at a respectful distance, observing her with a gentle, approving smile. Now in a perfectly tailored beige jacket over a crisp white dress shirt, light gray trousers, and polished brown leather shoes, his silver hair neatly combed, and round spectacles reflecting the ambient light, he radiated quiet authority and warmth. Though frail, his posture was dignified, his presence commanding yet compassionate, a living testament to the power of noticing and rewarding kindness. Sophie's lips curved into a tearful smile as she absorbed the letter, realizing her small act of compassion had not only changed her life but would also create a ripple of hope and support for countless others. In that moment, she understood that true reward is never measured in wealth, but in the lasting impact of selfless kindness, the power to touch lives and transform destinies.